Michael Madden, in terms of remand and what we're hearing when it comes to the population within Magabry, almost 50% on remand, waiting to either be convicted or sentenced. I mean, from your point of view and from the legal point of view, how frustrating can that be? How difficult is that when it comes to navigating the legal system?
It has been a very frustrating issue for as long as I've been a practicing solicitor in the criminal law in Northern Ireland for 16 years now, and it's always been a problem. The difficulty is, in this jurisdiction, people can be on remand for a routine magistrates court case, which is a summary only case, for months, and for a case that goes to the Crown Court, so that maybe the more serious cases, for years. So the difference between, for example, England, people would have very short times. They would have custody time limits, which they don't have here in Northern Ireland. In England, you can go to court and have your first appearance and go straight to the Crown Court, whereas here it can take years. So there's a big difference between this jurisdiction and England, and that delay creates huge amount of problems for people who have mental health problems. They've all sorts of complex issues, substance misuse issues, and they're not getting the help in the prison. It's very difficult even in the community to get the help, and that's they're the factors that have led them getting into custody in the first place.
But is remand the easy option for some judges, because the alternatives in terms of some of the bail conditions or the facilities that are not available in Northern Ireland just make it too difficult? The conversation we had earlier is that for people who don't have an address or who are homeless, they can't use a hostel as a bail address, so therefore there is no option but to remand them.
It wouldn't be uncommon for defendants to be on remand for months, purely because they don't have an address. In situations where the police aren't even objecting to bail, so there are no objections to bail, but because there are no hostel places available, those people have to stay in custody and can end up being acquitted. Cases can be withdrawn, and these people have spent months, if not years, in custody simply because there weren't the hostel places available in the community.
So what's the solution here? Because we're hearing today that more prison officers are going to be recruited, and previously unused or decommissioned buildings at Magabry in particular are now going to be put back in to service because of the prison population. That feels like the end of the system problem. I mean, do you think there is a way to address that sooner?
Well, there's a number of different stages. The first stage would really be factors that lead to people going into custody in the first place. So you have underinvestment in the community, you've underinvestment in healthcare, mental health care, you've underinvestment in housing, you've underinvestment in drug and alcohol rehabilitation. So these factors lead to more people being arrested, more people going into remand, and then you have people not being able to get hostel addresses, and then you have the problems that the PPS have, that there are delays in progressing cases. For example, recently I had a client who is 17 years old, and now he didn't go into remand, but it's a common feature where part of the delays in the system are down to, for example, forensic testing, and it's a common situation where an item that goes for forensic testing can take 12 months, 18 months before the results are back. I had a client who was 14 whenever he was arrested, and he had a phone seized, and it has taken 3 years for that phone to be returned to him and to be analysed. And the prosecution now will lead to him being prosecuted in an adult court. So he's now going to potentially end up with a conviction, whereas if there was whatever the problems are with PPS, with forensics.
It just points to the backlogs and delays. The backlogs and delays in the system.
Yeah. Ivor, you were nodding along to quite a bit of what Michael was saying there in terms, again, of practical solutions. I mean, there are emergency measures recently announced for England and Wales that the Labour government announced that involves certain schemes, one of them being along the lines of early release, perhaps, that would kick in around September. I mean, is that sort of thing a runner here?
It possibly will be a runner here, but one of the problems that will manifest itself will be impact statements that families or victims have put in.
Balance, yeah.
Yes, how's that going to be balanced out? The judiciary has its calculations, and the calculation is you do crime A, you get a period incarceration between such and such and such and such. So it becomes the judiciary's problem then. They lessen the sentence, or what's happening in mainland Britain, I will cut a bit off the tail end of it.
Just on a final point then, Ivor, and some of what we've heard you talk about dealing with people with mental health difficulties, people who are struggling with drug addiction. I mean, this is maybe a slightly philosophical question, but when it comes to things like this, do you think as a society, most of us know what exactly a prison does?
No. No one wants to know what goes on behind the grey wall. But equally, we have clients or we have prisoners within behind the grey wall that they're there for protection from the society on the outside of the crimes that they have committed. So they're also there for their own safety. It's a two-way coin, this. And society dictates what happens. Prison officers, we pick up on what is presented to us. We operate 365, 24/7. We can't turn someone away. The judiciary says we take them, we take them. If we don't present a prisoner to the courts at a specific time, on a specific day, the person in charge of the reception will be appearing in front of the judge. So we're under a lot of pressure to provide a service. Our numbers as prison staff were cut drastically, and stuff was done, statistics were done that the prison population in Northern Ireland would drop down below 1,000. Anyone would have seen that was going to be an elephant in a room. So prison staff have been overworked. We are getting everything comes through our door, and we have to deal with it as it comes through our door. We don't know what we're getting from 1 minute to the next.
Well, look, it's been a final point.
Just very briefly, I mean, the losers here are really society, because if people are in custody when they shouldn't be, if they're in overcrowded prisons, it's dangerous, and people who are in prison don't get the mental health help, don't get the rehabilitation help. It really doesn't help society as a whole. And just the final thing I wanted to say, just to give an idea of what solicitors do in the situation, because it really does fall on solicitors then to try and pick up the situation. We essentially have to help prisoners, help our clients for free in difficult situations. There's a remuneration scheme under legal aid, which is effectively, it's called the Green Form scheme. It's effectively unworkable, because for us to help a prisoner, for us to get legal aid for a rate of £43 per hour, which was set in 1992 and hasn't changed, we have to go to the prison, we have to get a form signed with the client, and to get that visit can take 3 weeks to get that visit, come back to the office, load on an application online, answer queries, by which time your client's either fallen seriously ill, God forbid something worse has happened, or he's changed his solicitor. So it really comes down to solicitors having to really do pro bono a lot of work for really vulnerable people.
Well, look, it's been great to get the insight of both of you as well. Like, thank you so much.
Just one other thing.
Very
sorry.
Good, Ivor.
That the Northern Ireland Prison Service has up to 13 outside scrutineers looking over our shoulders that we're doing our job in a professional manner.
So it was the bureaucracy then as well, perhaps off it. Well, look, it's been a great insight for us. It's been good to hear both of you. Michael Madden from Madden and Fanugger, thanks as well to Ivor Dunn there, Chair of the Prison Officers Association of Northern Ireland.